Welcome to Daily Conversation. This is Mr. K. Yeah, today is the 5th of June 2021, and the time now is 6:17 a.m. Well, today is a reading session, and we will continue to read the book Atomic Habit. And before we get started, please click the like button and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Alright, so here we go. Yeah, so today we start from line 655, right? Yeah, so do you want to start first?
Yeah. This counterintuitive idea makes even more sense once you understand what happens when a habit is formed in the brain. A habit that has been encoded in the mind is ready to be used whenever the relevant situation arises. When Patty Owald, a therapist from Austin, Texas, started smoking, she would often light up while riding horses with a friend. Eventually, she quit smoking and avoided it for years. She had also stopped riding. Decades, decades later, she hoped she she hopped on a horse again and found herself craving a cigarette for the first time in forever. The cues were still internalized. She just hadn't been exposed to them in a long time.
Okay, one, two, three, four, fifth line. This one is decades, and you pronounce as decades.
Okay, decade.
Once a habit has been encoded, the urge to act follows whenever the environmental cues reappear. This is one reason behavior change techniques can backfire. Shaming obese people with weight loss presentation can make them feel stressed. And as a result, many people return to their favorite coping strategy, overeating. Showing pictures of blackened lungs to smokers leads to higher levels of anxiety, which drives many people to reach for a cigarette. If you are not careful about cues, you can cause the very behavior you want to stop.
Bad habits. Bad habits are autocatalytic. The process spits this out. They foster the feelings they try to numb. You feel bad, so you eat junk food. Because you eat junk food, you feel bad. Watching television makes you feel sluggish, so you watch more televisions because you don't have the energy to do anything else. Worrying about your health makes you feel anxious, which causes you to smoke to ease your anxiety, which makes your health even worse, and soon you're feeling more anxious. It's a downward spiral, a runaway trend of bad habits.
Okay, third line. This one is pronounced as sluggish, and you
Slug,
pronounce
sluggish,
sluggish,
sluggish.
sluggish. And then also last line, this is pronounced as spiral, and you pronounce spiral.
Spiral.
Researchers refer to this phenomenon as cue-induced wanting. An external trigger causes a compulsive craving to repeat a bad habit. Once you notice something, you begin to want it. This process is happening all the time, often without us realizing it. Scientists have found that showing addicts a picture of cocaine for just 33 milliseconds stimulates the reward pathway in the brain and sparks desire. This speed is too fast for the brain to consciously register. The addicts couldn't even tell you what they had seen, but they crave the drugs all the time.
Here is the punch line. You can break a habit, but you're unlikely to forget it. Once the mental grooves of habits have been craved into your brain, they are nearly impossible to remove entirely, even if they go unused for quite a while. And that means that simply resisting temptation is an ineffective strategy. It's hard to maintain a zen attitude in a life filled with interruptions. It takes too much energy. In the short run, we can choose to overpower temptations. In the long run, we become a product of the environment that we live on, that we live in. To put it bluntly, I have never seen someone consistently stick to positive habits in a negative environment.
Okay, second line, this one is carved, and you pronounce as crave.
Oh, yeah, carve.
And then sixth line, which is the third line from the bottom, we have this. It's actually product. When it is pronounced as a noun, the stress is at the first syllable, product.
Become a product.
Yeah, and you pronounce as product. Product
Okay.
is used as verb.
Okay.
A more reliable approach is to cut bad habits off the source. One of the most practical ways to eliminate a bad habit is to reduce exposure to the cue that causes it. If you can't seem to get any work done, leave your phone in another room for a few hours. If you're continually feeling like you're not enough, stop following social media accounts that trigger jealousy and envy. If you are wasting too much time watching television, move the TV out of the bedroom. If you're spending too much money on electronics, quit reading reviews of the latest tech gear. If you're playing too many video games, unplug the unplug the console and put it in a closet after each use.
This practice is an emergence of the first law of behavior change. Rather than making it obvious, we can make it invisible. I'm often surprised by how effective simple changes like these can be. Remove a single cue and the entire habit often fades away.
Self-control is a short-term strategy not a long-term one. You may be able to resist. You may be able to resist temptation once or twice, but it's unlikely you can master the willpower to override your desires every time. Instead of summoning a new dose of willpower whenever you want to do the right thing, your energy would be better spent optimizing your environment. This is the secret to self-control. Make the cues of your good habits obvious and the cues of your bad habits invisible.
Chapter summary. The emergence of the first law of behavioral change is make it invisible. Once a habit is formed, it's unlikely to be forgotten. People with high self-control tend to spend less time in tempting situations. It's easier to avoid temptation than resist it. One of the most practical ways to eliminate a bad habit is to reduce exposures to the cues that causes it. Self-control is short-term strategy, not long-term one.
How to create a good habit. The first law, make it obvious. Fill out the habits scorecard. Write down your current habits to become aware of them. Use implementation intentions. I will behavior at time in location. Use habit stacking. After current habit, I will new habit. Design your environment. Make the cues of good habits obvious and visible. The second law, make it attractive. The third law, make it easy. The fourth law, make it satisfying.
How to break a bad habit. Emergence of the first law. Make it invisible. Reduce exposures. Remove the cues of your bad habits from your environment. Emergence of the second law. Make it unattractive. Emergence of the third law. Make it difficult. Emergence of the fourth law. Make it unsatisfying. You can download a printable versions of this habit cheat sheet at atomichabbits.com/cheat sheet. The second law, make it attractive. How to make a habit irresistible. In the 1940s, a Dutch scientist named Nicole Timbergens performed a series of experiments that transformed our understanding of what motivates us. Timbergens, who eventually won the Nobel Prize for his work, was investigating herring gut, the great and white bird often seen flying along the seashores of North America.
Adult herringales have a small red dot on their beak, and Tinbergen noticed that newly hatched chicks would peck these spots whenever they wanted food. To begin one experiment, he created a collection of fake cardboard beaks, just a head without a body. When the parents had flown away, he went over to the nest and offered these dummy beaks to the chicks. The beaks were obvious fakes, and he assumed the baby birds would reject them altogether.
However, when the tiny goat saw the red spot on the cardboard beak, they pecked away just as if it were attached to their own mother. They had a clear preference to those red spots, as if they had been genetically programmed at birth. Soon, Timberjones discovers that the bigger the red spot, the faster the chicks peck. Eventually, he created a peak with 3 large red dots on it, and he placed this over the nest. The baby bird went crazy with delight. They pecked at the little red patches as if it was the greatest pig they had ever seen.
Okay, last line. This one is beak, and
Beak.
you pronounce as peak.
Okay.
Yeah, it's beak. Timbergen and his colleagues discovered similar behavior in other animals. For example, the gray-legged goose is a ground nesting bird. Occasionally, as the mother moves around on the nest, one of the eggs will roll out and settle on the grass nearby. Whenever this happens, the goose will waddle over to the egg and use its beak and neck to put it back into the nest.
Timbergen discovered that the goose would pull any nearby round object, such as a billiard board or a light bulb, back into the nest. The bigger the object, the greater their response. One goose even made a tremendous effort to route a valuable back and sit on top, like the baby goat automatically packed, pecking at red dots. The gray the gray-legged goose was following an intrinsic route. When I saw a row when I, s- when I see a round object nearby, I must roll it back into the nest. The bigger the round object, the harder I should try to get it.
It's like the brain of each animal is preloaded with certain rules for behavior. And when it comes across an exaggerated version of that rule, it lights up like a Christmas tree. Scientists refer to these exaggerated cues as supernormal stimuli. A supernormal stimulus is a heightened version of reality, like a beak with 3 red dots, or an egg the size of a volleyball, and it elicits a stronger response than usual.
Humans are also prone to fall for exaggerated versions of reality. Junk food, for example, drives our reward system into a frenzy. After spending hundreds of thousands of years hunting and for grain, for food in the wild. The human brain has evolved to place a high value on salt, sugar, and fat. Such foods are often calorie dense, and they were quite rare when ancient when our ancient ancestors were, were roaming the Seminole. When you don't when you don't know where your next meal is coming from, eating as much as possible is an excellent strategy for survival.
Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The fifth line after the ancient, this one is ancestor. Ancestors. Yeah, the stress is at the first syllable.
Ancestor.
Yeah, you pronounce as ancestor. Today, however, we live in a calorie-rich environment. Food is abundant, but your brain continues to crave it like it is scarce. Placing a high value on salt, sugar, and fat is no longer advantageous to our health, but the craving persists because the brain's reward centers have not changed for approximately 50,000 years. The modern food industry relies on stretching our Paleolithic instinct, instincts beyond their evolutionary purpose.
The last two words is the evolution.
Oh yeah, evolutionary.
And you pronounce the evolutions.
Okay,
Evolutionary.
all right. Yeah, so this is where I have read until.
Okay. Yeah. So make a summary.
Okay. Yeah, so firstly, uh, yeah, I think we need to understand that it is quite um, we of course we can break a habit, but we are unlikely to forget it totally. So for this one, uh, um, the part of the cues is quite important. Yeah, so we need to be careful, and then we need to try to make it uh, uh, invisible. So it's something like to remove the cue that will appear in our environment. Yep, and then also uh, it says that instead of spending our energy on I mean the willpower to stop doing something, and then the author says that is a short-term strategy, just using the willpower to stop doing something, to stop a bad habit. But for the long-term strategy, we had better to use our energy to change the environment. Yeah, so that is a better way. Yep, and then for the next part, I think I couldn't get any points because it seems like it is just half of
Yeah.
the part, and we have just go over some example only.
Mm.
Yep.
Yeah, I think those examples want to tell us in animals, and for example, like the like some bird, and also the goose, they have they have a patterns. So they follow the patterns to do some things, and even it is ridiculous to human to us. And maybe we also have some ridiculous patterns which we do it automatically without thinking, and it's ridiculous at some point.
Yeah.
So I think the first part of this example and this research want to let us know this is something like a nature. So maybe human will also have this behavior, and then how they link this kind of research to the craving. Yeah, because this topic is about how to make a habit irresistible. So maybe we can like link our patterns to some actions. The action is something that we want to do, so we link some of the patterns, and then we crave for some things. Yeah, so that means those examples show us that we actually can have a way to like make something attractive. Because we follow some patterns to do something, just like the goose, the bird. They follow some pattern to do something. Then maybe human can also like create a patterns.
Yeah.
Create a pattern. So after we get the cues, we will follow the patterns and then do something. Yeah. And about the first part, the author mentioned that there's one example which is I think it's a girls, and one of her hobbies is riding a horse, and then she liked to smoke while she were riding with her friends or with the community. And then this is the environment that will make us crave the cigarette, just like the previous examples. The Vietnam's the Vietnam sorry those soldiers go to Vietnam War, and then they will they will take and they crave for the heroin, but after they came back to their hometowns, to their to Americans, and then they suddenly quit the quit the drug, the heroin.
Yeah.
And then so we crave. I remember last reading sessions, and we read about the environments. Those habits were eventually were associated with the environment. So it's not just a single habit would be the trigger. The whole environment will become a trigger. And then if we link this point to the point in our current reading session, which is it's better not to use your self-control abilities to resist the temptations, but rather find some ways some way to make the cues invisible, or simply avoid the environment.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, because and it's not just about like hide the cues, and maybe you need to like create a new environment to do something, which is one of the point that the author make in last or in previous reading session, which is you need to split your place, your space, each work for each for each doing.
Yeah. One place,
And
one use, right?
yeah, and even if your room is small, and you also can like pointing a chair. This chair is for some use. So after I sit on this chair, I will only use the chair to take my lunch. And or maybe another table, I will use this table to do some work.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then you can also split the area. Maybe the left side of your rooms is used for doing exercise or something like that. Yeah. So even if your room is small, you also can kind of split the environment.
Yeah.
And split the environment and give a new task, or maybe give a different task to it. So kind of recreate the environments.
Yeah.
So everything is linked together. Why they want to do this? Yeah, is it because one reasons, and the reason is in our current reading session, which is uh one habits is formed, and our brains will always crave for it. Yeah, and this cue, we cannot forget these cues, and we also cannot forget the trigger in this environment.
Yeah.
After we camps in the environments, or after we see the cues, or we and the cues will become a trigger, the trigger of the whole habits that we actually want to break, the habit that we actually want to break. So because this is something in our brains, we can't really change it, so we can't forget it.
Yeah.
And then it is subconsciously, so that instead of doing that, we kind of like hide the cues, and then kind of like redesign our environments, or maybe simply like avoid the environments.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, there's my summary.
Yeah. And then I think yeah, this book is really recommended because I think before reading this book, I don't know other people, but at least for me myself, really, if we want to, let's say, to break a bad habit, and then mostly I will put most of my energy on stop doing that thing. Yeah, it's something like to use my willpower not to do that thing, and maybe I will do something, maybe to change some environments, but the I didn't spend most of my energy on this, and I don't have enough awareness on the concept of habits. Like we have cues, we have crave, yeah, all these different perspective to deal with habit. Yeah, and I believe that if we continue to read the book, and I can have better understanding of this whole concept, and will have more ways to deal with habits, not only from the cue and craving.
Yeah, and it actually has a lot of new ones, right?
What do you mean, new ones?
New ones means it has a lot of details.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and this is not just a simple ways to do something. So it's maybe maybe the before reading the book you think that there are new there are some simple way to deal with habits, and which is the subtitle of this not subtitle, which is uh, the contents in this book. Yeah, like uh, make it obvious, and also make it attractive,
Yeah.
and make it easy, and make it satisfying. So it seems like it's a very uh, instructive suggestions, but actually it has a lot of new ones. Yeah, so we really need to know the details so that we can apply it. Otherwise, we may just like, yeah, make it obvious, or make it like invisible, but after some time we still will keep doing that, because actually we actually don't aware that actually the cues is already associated with the whole environment. Whatever you do, eventually you will you're triggered by the cues, and then the whole habit uh, will start again.
Yeah.
And after that you just think, oh yeah, this make it obvious is not suitable for me, and then maybe you try another method, make it attractive, and then after you try, and then after that you try all the all the suggestions, and then you finally found that, yeah, none of them help. So
Yep.
actually there are a lot of new ones we need to study, and then we also need to think, and also it's not just the readings, we also need to apply. For example, the habit scorecards, and then a lot. Yeah, we also need to like do the habit stacking. We need to rearrange our habits, and we also need to think how to insert the habits, how to like make the habit obvious, not only by our side. It's also like in the morning, let's say you in the morning you plan for the habit you will do at night. Okay, so that's all.
Yeah, right.
Okay. So that's all for our today conversations. How do you feel? Did you enjoy the conversations? Please tell us what you think of our conversations. And we are not native speakers. If you found any vocabulary mistakes that we made, please also comment to let us know, because we want to learn more and improve ourselves. Remember to like and subscribe to us. Thanks for watching. See you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow.